Good morning. Today we are starting our next unit. We are starting with CO44. I can interpret and write inequalities. This is going to be very similar to what we had been doing with our one-step, two-step operations, but instead of an equal sign, there's going to be an inequality sign. So one side does not equal the other side. It would be less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. But everything else we're doing the same as how we did it with our last unit. So we're going to be using our knowledge from our last unit and tweaking it, to building off of it, tweaking it to be with inequalities instead of equals. So we're going to see some things that are similar, some things that are different. So our Khan Academy assignments for this week have to do with those inequalities. One of them is solving that one-step inequality, just like how we solved one-step equations in the last unit, except now instead of equals to, it's going to have that inequality sign. But you solve it the exact same way, doing the opposite operations. So we are going to be doing that objective. We haven't done it yet, but if you want to get ahead on that Khan Academy, just keep in mind that the inequalities, you solve it the same way as you did with the equal sign, except you use that inequality symbol instead of the equal sign. So, what is an inequality? An inequality compares two unequal values. So one side does not equal the other side. It is not balanced out. There are 4 symbols used with inequalities. We're going to complete the table below with words or phrases that are used with each one. So if we look at our first symbol, what do we call that symbol? Rhoda? Less than. The way we know it's less than is we read from left to right. So we've got the left side, and then we can see that the open part is on the right side. So that means the left is less than the right. We always look at it like that symbol is an alligator's mouth. The alligator wants to eat up the bigger size, right? It wants more food. So that open part is always going to be by the bigger number. Reading from left to right, if that bigger number's on the right side, it means that left number, because we go left to right, that left number is less than. It is the smaller. The alligator doesn't want to eat it. Another word that we can use, this is like the last time when we had addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, we had verbal phrases that mean the same thing. Another verbal phrase would be that left side is fewer or lower. Those are all words that are going to tell us we need to use that less than symbol. So let's look at our next symbol. Starting at the left, we can see where that open part of the symbol is. Is that, what would we call this symbol? Fernanda?
Greater than.
Greater than, because the opening is at the left side. Another way of saying the left is more than the right. Or it is higher, a higher number on that number line. On the thermometer, it's a higher number, and it's bigger. Then we come to those same symbols, but they have a line underneath it. What does that line underneath it mean? Michael?
A number is greater or less than 40.
Ah, yes. We know our equal sign has 2 lines, right? So it has to balance, they have to be the same number, 2 equals 2. They balance out. If we have a less than or a greater than symbol on top of one of those lines, it means that number can be less than or equal to. So now, if we had 2 is less than 5, it could be, sorry, not 2. Let's say our variable is less than 5. What number could our variable be? Any number that's smaller than 5. But if we have less than or equal to, it can also be 5. So if it's just less than, it has to be 4 or smaller. It has to be a number smaller than 5. But if it's less than or equal to, it can be 5 or any number smaller than it. So it opens up to also be able to possibly be that actual number to balance it out. So if we know this is our less than symbol, with that equal sign under it means it's less than or equal to. Another way, remember we've got all these different verbal phrases. Another way to know that it's less than or equal to is if you say the maximum. The maximum amount of money that you can spend at the store is $20. You have a $20 bill in your pocket. The maximum amount of money you can spend is 20. Can't go over it because you only have a 20 in your pocket. Do you have to spend all $20? No. You can spend a smaller amount, or you could spend exactly $20. So the maximum amount you can spend is 20. So it could be a smaller number, or actually $20. At most, what you can spend at the store is $20. You could spend the exact amount, or a smaller number. Or you could do no more than $20. Right? You could spend $5, you could spend $10.99, but you can't go past 20, no more than $20, because you only have a $20 bill in your pocket. Okay, so that's less than or equal to. You can spend the 20 or a smaller amount. So if we look at our next symbol, we see our greater than symbol with a line under it. So that means greater than or equal to. If with the less than or equal to, we have a maximum amount we can spend, what do you think our verbal phrase is for the greater than or equal to, Michael?
Minimum?
A minimum. In order to pass the test, you need to get 20 of the 30 problems correct for a passing score. So you need to get a minimum of 20 correct. You can get 20 correct, you could get 30 correct, you could get them all correct. The minimum number to pass the test, you need at least 20 points. So you can get that number or more. You have to get at least 20 correct. You could get more correct, but in order to pass the test, you have to get at least 20 of them right. Or no less than 20 correct. Now, are there other verbal phrases that we could add to our table? Yeah, just like when we did the adding and subtracting, multiplying and dividing, we put some verbal phrases on there, and then I said, there might be more. So as we're doing our homework, if you come across some phrases that aren't on there, you're gonna figure out which one they fall under, and you can add to it. These are not the only verbal phrases. These are the most common verbal phrases. Does that make sense? All right, so we can add to our tables. We will need this table on our help sheet when it's time for us to test. Just like with that adding and subtracting, multiplying and dividing, we needed those tables to help us with those key phrases. Now, we're going to use it, just like we did in our last unit. Write each inequality statement as a verbal phrase 2 ways. So we're going to come up with 2 different verbal phrases using some of those terms above. So let's look at this first one. What is one way I could write that? What's a verbal phrase I could use? Jack?
A number less than 5.
Be careful. Look at that symbol. Look at where the big part is opening up to.
Yeah, a number greater than 5.
Yeah. So that big part opens up to the number side. So to that left side. So it's a number greater than 5. What's another verbal phrase we could say? Fernanda.
A number higher than 5.
A number higher than 5. So we read left to right. Always have to start with what's on the left side. A number greater than 5. A number higher than 5. There is the possibility of flipping it. Some of us like to challenge ourselves. So I am going to point that out. But if you flip it and you want to start with 5, is 5 greater than or less than the number? Rhoda?
Less than?
Yeah. So we see the small pointing to the 5. So if we say it backwards, instead of saying a number greater than 5, we could do it the opposite and say 5 less than a number. Some of us are ready to go backwards and do it the opposite way. Some of us are like, oh, that's kind of confusing me. So don't do that. Okay? If what I just said doesn't quite make sense, it's okay. That's the challenge that you don't have to be ready for in 6th grade math. Some of us are like, ooh, I like to go backwards, so I want to say it the backwards way. Only do it if you truly understand it. So if you understand that 5 is less than the number, it would still be a correct statement, right? The number is greater than 5. The opposite of that means 5 is less than that number. Don't go backwards if you're not sure. Just read it from left to right. Michael.
So less than, when we have less than after the other one, didn't that one get flipped?
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
So, back in one of the sessions, didn't when we saw less than
Have we worked with inequalities in this class? So what are you referring to?
I think he's talking about CO38, or like this is, yeah, this is exactly.
So that's order of operations. CO38, is that the one that you're talking about? CO36. Oh, you're talking about the subtraction phrase. Okay, so with the subtraction phrase, that is a different thing. So when they're talking about less than, they're talking about subtracting from. So that is a different less than the inequality. So, yeah, I can see where you connected that, because we did have the verbal phrase less than for subtraction, something different. Okay, so, whew, good connection, thinking about those verbal phrases. This less than, yeah. It's same wording, but we're doing something different. Okay, so when we look at our next one, we see that less than sign, so you'd say a number less than 12. Just read from left to right. So when we did subtraction and we did division, I said it was very order specific. Same with inequalities, it's very order specific. You have to go left to right, but we don't have to star any of them that we're gonna flip. So there's no flipping unless you're one of my friends who wants to do the challenge of doing it backwards. Then you have to do the opposite. Most of us are going to be a lot more comfortable reading from left to right and just writing straight up what we're seeing. So we don't have to worry about flipping anything. Okay. I'm gonna have you finish writing your verbal phrases on your own, so you get practice with those verbal phrases. Let's look at the bottom of this page. And it says, write each verbal phrase as the inequality statement. Again, we're going from left to right, and we're gonna write exactly in the order that it's telling us. So, a number less than 18. A number less than 18. A number greater than 20. A number is greater than or equal to 5. A number is less than or equal to 35. Write out what those inequality statements look like. So you're finishing this page on your own. I want to give us some practice with our word problems. This is where we're going to see some of those different verbal phrases. We need to figure out what it's telling us. So the most you can spend at Target is $20. Oh, I actually used that as an example. So who was paying attention? Show the amounts of money you can spend. What would our inequality statement look like? So think back on our table. Which one did I use this as an example for? So far I see 2 people who know what this inequality statement will look like. 3 people. Who else can be brave? What do you think this inequality statement would look like? So what you want to do is you want to look at our verbal phrase keywords, the most you can spend. Presley, what do you think? What should our inequality statement look like? At most, you can spend $20. So I know it's gonna have that equal sign on the bottom. I only have a $20 bill in my pocket, I don't have more, so I can spend less than $20. Or I could spend all of the $20, but I can't spend more than that. I don't have it. So N is less than or equal to $20. Does that make sense? So you're looking for those key words that relate back to our table. You need more than 12 goals to break the record. Show the numbers of goals you could score to break the record. What is my key verbal phrase in that sentence? What is that we see in our table? What's that key verbal phrase? So look back at your table. Which words do you also see in here? So Julie, look back at the table on the page before. What should I circle? What is the verbal phrase that we see? Jackson. More than. So Jackson, what is our inequality statement going to look like?
more than 12.
More than is that greater than symbol. So I need any number that's bigger than 12. If I score 12 goals, can I break the record of 12? No, I'm tying it. I don't want to tie it. I want to have more than the 12. I want to break that goal. So any number of goals that's bigger than 12. So it's not going to have the equal sign with it because it has to be a bigger number. That makes sense? So go through and actually circle your verbal phrases. Find it on your table. If it's one of those verbal phrases that's not on the table, think it through. Okay? You have to do a little critical thinking here. If it's not a phrase that's on that table, what is it telling us? Can it be that number and there's an equal sign under it? Is it going to be smaller than that number or greater than that number? Okay, so most of the verbal phrases will be on the table, but you might come across something like a speed limit. What is the speed limit telling us? If you're driving on the highway and there is a speed limit, what does it mean? Joy? If you don't know more than that number. So when you see the speed limit, do you think that's something you can add to the table? So think through what we know. We know what a speed limit is. We've been on roads. You might not be driving, but you're in a car that's being driven. You know what the speed limit means. Use through what you know and where's that going to fall on the table, and then include it onto the table. So it's more verbal phrases that we can include. Any questions on this page? Or the page before? You've got the front page with the verbal phrases and your inequality statements, and your second page of figuring out from the word problem. Find your verbal phrase and write down that inequality statement. If you come to ones that you struggle on, you can come ask me. I wanted us to have work time to try to figure out these word problems. So start out on that first page so we don't forget it. So turn back to our first page and finish with your inequality statements and verbal phrases. Then work on the word problems. Figure out, circle your verbal phrase that's in the word problem, and then write the inequality statement. If you are watching this at home, I hope you are well. I hope to see you soon. Have a wonderful day.